From German engineering perfection to Soviet revolutionary design, from American mass production to specialized beach-storming machines, these 5 tank innovations didn't just change battles, they changed the entire art of warfare forever. August 1942, near Leningrad, the German Tiger I made its combat debut and immediately became the most feared weapon on any battlefield. Weighing 54 tons and armed with the legendary 88mm Kit UK-36 gun. Originally designed as an anti-aircraft weapon, the Tiger could destroy any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters, far beyond their ability to return fire effectively. Its frontal armor measured 100 millimeters thick with sides at 80 millimeters, making it virtually impenetrable to most Allied anti-tank guns and tank cannons of the early war period. The Tiger's 88mm gun fired armor-piercing rounds at 773 meters per second, capable of penetrating 100 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters. British Churchill tanks, American M4 Shermans, and Soviet T-34s were helpless against it in direct confrontation. Their shells simply bounced off the Tiger's thick plating while the German gun obliterated them from beyond their effective range. A single Tiger could, and often did, knock out multiple enemy tanks before being disabled, creating a psychological terror that spread through Allied ranks. But the Tiger had critical weaknesses. Its Maybach HL-230 engine, while powerful at 700 horsepower, consumed fuel voraciously, just 60 miles per 120 gallons. The complex overlapping wheel suspension system, while providing excellent cross-country performance, was prone to jamming with mud, ice, and debris. Only 1,347 Tigers were produced during the entire war due to their complexity and cost. Each required 300,000 man-hours to build compared to 10,000 for Sherman. This meant Tigers were always outnumbered, and mechanical breakdowns claimed as many as enemy fire. From 1942 to 1944, the Tiger dominated battlefields in North Africa, the Eastern Front, Italy, and Normandy. German tank ace Michael Wittmann destroyed 138 enemy tanks, mostly in his Tiger, including a legendary ambush at Villers-Bocage where he single-handedly destroyed 14 tanks and 15 personnel carriers. But by late 1944, improved Allied tactics, flanking attacks, airstrikes, and better anti-tank weapons like the British 17-pounder and American 76mm guns began neutralizing the Tiger's advantage. The Predator became prey. June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa. German forces invaded the Soviet Union, expecting rapid victory against inferior Soviet equipment. Instead, they encountered the T-34, a tank so revolutionary it forced Germany to completely redesign their armored doctrine. Soviet tank designer Mikhail Koshkin had created something unprecedented, a medium tank that combined firepower, protection, and mobility in perfect balance, shocking German commanders who had never seen anything like it. The T-34's most revolutionary feature was its sloped armor design. Rather than vertical plates, the T-34's hull and turret featured aggressive angles, 45 degrees on the frontal glacis and 60 degrees on the sides, dramatically increasing effective armor thickness through deflection. A 45mm armor plate angled at 45 degrees provided protection equivalent to 90mm of vertical armor, making the T-34's actual 45 to 52mm armor as effective as much thicker German tanks. German tank crews watched in disbelief as their 37mm and 50mm shells bounced harmlessly off T-34s that should have been easy kills. The T-34's 76.2mm F-34 gun could penetrate 69mm of armor at 500 meters, making it superior to most German tanks in 1941 to 1942. Its Christie suspension system with large road wheels provided exceptional cross-country mobility, while extraordinarily wide 500mm tracks distributed weight to prevent sinking in mud and snow, terrain that immobilized German tanks, with their narrower tracks designed for European roads. The diesel V2 engine, producing 500 horsepower, was more fuel-efficient and less flammable than German gasoline engines, giving T-34s longer operational range and better survival rates when hit. Most importantly, the T-34 was designed for mass production using simplified assembly techniques and readily available materials. Soviet factories produced 84,000 T-34s during the war, more than all German tank production combined. The T-34 could be manufactured in just 3,000 man-hours versus 10,000 plus 4 German designs. This meant that even when German tanks achieved tactical superiority, they faced overwhelming numerical disadvantages. For every Tiger or Panther destroyed, dozens of T-34s remained. The T-34's impact was immediate and devastating. German General Paul Ludwig Ewald von Kleist called it the finest tank in the world, while German tank designer Ferdinand Porsche admitted Soviet engineers had achieved what German designers hadn't. Perfect balance. The T-34 stopped the Wehrmacht at Moscow in 1941, broke the siege of Leningrad, and spearheaded the drives to Stalingrad, Kursk, and ultimately Berlin. Its revolutionary design influenced every tank developed afterward, establishing principles still used today. February 1942, American factories began producing the M4 Sherman medium tank, and they never stopped. Over the next 3 years, the United States manufactured approximately 50,000 Shermans, dwarfing all Axis tank production combined. The Sherman wasn't the best tank on any battlefield. It was outgunned by German Panthers and Tigers, and its armor was inferior to both German and Soviet heavy tanks. But America's industrial might turned the Sherman into the decisive weapon through sheer overwhelming numbers, reliability, and strategic mobility. The Sherman's 75mm M3 gun could penetrate 68mm of armor at 500 meters, adequate against most German tanks in 1942-43, but increasingly obsolete against Tigers and Panthers with their thicker armor. Sherman armor ranged from 38 to 76mm, making it vulnerable to German 75mm and 88mm guns at most combat ranges. German tankers mockingly called Shermans Tommy Cookers, British or Ronsons, American, lights first time, every time, because their gasoline engines often caught fire when penetrated. Sherman crews knew that in a one-on-one duel with a Tiger or Panther, they would likely lose badly, but the Sherman possessed advantages that proved decisive. Its 400 horsepower radial engine was extraordinarily reliable, with mechanical breakdown rates far lower than German tanks. Shermans could operate for hundreds of miles without major maintenance, while Tigers and Panthers required constant repairs. The Sherman's relatively light weight, 30 tons, meant it could cross bridges that would collapse under 54-ton Tigers, and it could be transported by standard Allied shipping and landing craft. Crucial for amphibious operations across the Atlantic and Pacific, the Sherman's crew ergonomics were superior, with better visibility, easier operation, and faster crew training than German counterparts. Most critically, the Sherman embodied American strategic doctrine: produce enough to overwhelm the enemy through numbers and logistics. U.S. factories could replace Sherman losses faster than Germans could destroy them. For every Sherman knocked out, 3 more arrived. Allied tank crews developed tactics to exploit this advantage. While one Sherman drew German fire, others would flank and attack from sides and rear where armor was thinnest. At the Battle of Aricourt in September 1944, American forces destroyed 200 German tanks, including Panthers, for the loss of 25 Shermans, not through superior individual performance, but through superior tactics, numbers, and logistics. Later Sherman variants addressed firepower deficiencies. The 76mm gun, 1944, and British 17-pounder Firefly version could penetrate Panther and Tiger armor at reasonable ranges. But even basic 75mm Shermans contributed to victory through reliability, numbers, and the industrial system that produced and sustained them, something Germany could never match. July 1943, Battle of Kursk. Germany unveiled the Panther, officially designated Panzerkampfwagen V, designed specifically to counter the T-34's revolutionary advantages while incorporating its best features. After the shock of encountering T-34s in 1941, Hitler ordered German engineers to create a superior medium tank. The result was arguably the best medium tank design of World War II, combining the T-34's sloped armor concept with superior German engineering and a devastating long-barrel 75mm gun. The Panther's armor protection was exceptional for a medium tank. Frontal glassy armor measured 80mm, sloped at 55 degrees, providing effective protection equivalent to 140mm of vertical armor, making it nearly impervious to most Allied tank guns from the front. Side armor of 40 to 50mm was thinner, but still adequate against flank attacks. The Panther's 45-ton weight struck a balance between the light Sherman, 30 tons, and heavy Tiger, 54 tons, providing protection without sacrificing mobility. But the Panther's true revolutionary feature was its 75mm KWK 42L/70 gun, one of the most powerful tank guns of the war. With a barrel length of 70 calibers, 5.25 meters, it fired armor-piercing rounds at 935 meters per second, capable of penetrating 138 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters. This meant the Panther could destroy any Allied tank at long range while remaining safe from return fire, similar to the Tiger, but in a faster, more mobile, and cheaper package. American and British tankers quickly learned that engaging a Panther frontally was suicide. Only flanking attacks or airstrikes offered reasonable chances of success. The Panther's Maybach HL-230 engine produced 700 horsepower, giving it excellent mobility with a top speed of 46 kilometers per hour and good cross-country performance. Its sophisticated torsion bar suspension provided smooth riding and accurate gun laying even while moving, a critical advantage in combat. German crews considered the Panther superior to the Tiger for most combat situations because it combined comparable firepower with better mobility and lower maintenance requirements. However, the Panther suffered from the same German weakness that plagued the Tiger: over-engineering and complexity. Its transmission and final drive were notoriously unreliable, especially in early production models, with mechanical breakdowns common. Production was slow. Only 6,000 Panthers were built compared to 50,000 Shermans, and each required extensive man-hours and specialized materials increasingly scarce in war-torn Germany. By 1944-45, fuel shortages and Allied air superiority meant many Panthers were destroyed or abandoned due to lack of fuel rather than combat losses. June 6, 1944, D-Day, Allied forces faced an unprecedented challenge, assaulting heavily fortified beaches defended by mines, obstacles, bunkers, and artillery. Standard tanks couldn't breach these defenses. They would bog down in sand, trigger mines, or be destroyed by German guns before reaching shore. British Major General Percy Hobart's 79th Armored Division developed revolutionary specialized tanks, collectively called Hobart's Funnies, specifically engineered to overcome each obstacle. These weren't conventional fighting vehicles. They were problem-solving machines that made the impossible possible. The Sherman Crab mine-clearing tank featured a rotating drum mounted on arms in front of the tank, from which 43 heavy chains flailed the ground at 140 revolutions per minute, detonating buried mines ahead of the tank. The flail could clear a path 10 feet wide through minefields while the tank continued advancing, allowing following infantry and vehicles to pass safely. At Normandy, crab tanks cleared thousands of mines, creating vital lanes through German defenses while taking explosive hits that would have killed soldiers or destroyed conventional tanks. The Churchill Crocodile Flame Tank was perhaps the most terrifying specialized vehicle. It towed a 400-gallon armored fuel trailer connected by a reinforced pipe to a flame projector replacing the whole machine gun. The Crocodile could shoot flames 120 yards, farther than 2 football fields, turning German bunkers into infernos and forcing defenders to surrender or perish. Psychological impact was enormous. Many German positions surrendered when crocodiles appeared. knowing the horrific death that awaited. Over 800 crocodiles were produced, and they remained in British service into the 1950s. The DD, duplex drive, Sherman was an amphibious tank fitted with a collapsible canvas flotation screen and twin propellers powered by the tank's engine. When raised, the screen displaced enough water to float the 30-ton tank, allowing it to swim from landing craft to shore at 4 miles per hour while still capable of firing its 75mm gun. Once ashore, the screen was lowered and the tank fought normally. At D-Day, DD tanks provided critical fire support during the initial assault. The rough seas sank 27 of 29 American DD tanks at Omaha Beach. British and Canadian DD tanks successfully landed at Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches, directly supporting infantry and suppressing German positions. The Churchill Avro, armored vehicle Royal Engineers, carried a petard spigot mortar firing 40-pound high-explosive flying dustbins designed to demolish concrete fortifications and bunkers. It could destroy pillboxes that resisted conventional tank guns and artillery. Avries also carried fascines, large bundles of wood, to drop into anti-tank ditches, creating bridges for following vehicles, and could deploy small box girder bridges to cross obstacles. At Normandy, Avries neutralized dozens of fortified positions, opening paths through Hitler's Atlantic Wall. These specialized tanks demonstrated that innovation and adaptation could overcome seemingly insurmountable defenses. Hobart's funnies suffered fewer casualties while clearing more obstacles faster than any alternative method could achieve, proving that specialized engineering could win battles as decisively as heavy armor and big guns. 5 revolutionary innovations: German engineering perfection, Soviet design genius, American industrial might, refined excellence under pressure, and specialized problem solving. These weren't just tanks. They were the tools that decided which nations would shape the post-war world. Steel, fire, and innovation changed everything.